I'd like to think we worked together very closely on... I mean, John did show me how he wanted to play the part and worked at great length on trying to play for sympathy and all that sort of thing. And the thing was to make it not look like a cheap horror thing. We wanted to try and reproduce something approximating, but not an exact clone of the Elephant Man, right?
Yeah, you could take liberties. In other words, you could create something which was grotesque, but by the end of the film, you would find not too heavily difficult to be able to sympathize with.
We had no time for a start. That was problem number one. Problem number two was that we had to work out a way of, technically, a way of actually doing this, because as far as I know, no makeup had ever had quite such an enormously complicated build-up with such very thick areas, especially on the corner of the neck, where you'd normally make an edge, you couldn't make an edge, and so on and so forth. So technically it was very difficult just for a start. So my problem was to work out how the hell to do it. We had a cast which was a death mask of the original Elephant Man on which to base things. We also had his skeleton. We had photographs, the 4 or 5 or so of the original photographs that actually existed. I had some references from the London hospital of what the man actually looked like, and we based it upon that. These were our actual working photographs, incidentally. That was presumably when he was a boy. We're not sure whether that's a photograph or whether that's a drawing. It's rather hard to tell the difference. And these are among the only photographs that were ever taken. This must have been taken just before he died anyway.
It wasn't in an emporium like this either, because when Chris had his studio when we were doing that, was a little tiny sort of basement, really, wasn't it?
That's right, it was a little basement. It was
the old Kent Road.
One of my colleagues is the Grotto. The Grotto. It's quite hard work for the actor to sit there, you know, in certain set positions that he has to maintain without moving. There are times when he has to hold his breath because it's very delicate. You know, to the actual positioning of this thing on, it's very light. It weighs virtually nothing at all. It's difficult to feel. You know, the human neck, there's so many different movements that are possible. And every time you make a different movement, obviously, the slightest fraction there makes it out by maybe a centimetre here. Move it by a millimetre on the chin and it's out by a centimetre somewhere else. So the problem is to get the thing all lined up in the correct position. The adhesive I use is a surgical one, which is an impact adhesive and very strong. Once it's on, it's very difficult to get it off again. So if you make a mistake, you can be in deep trouble. We worked on the teeth. I worked with wax and continually altering them until we got exactly the right look to John's own mouth and with something that he could actually speak with, because the problem, he had to be able to talk and do all the rest of it.
Actually, we even got a bit of the twist into that.
That's right, yes. We twisted as much as we could. We twisted his own mouth around.
Your own mouth?
Yeah, from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
We twisted it and manoeuvred his own anatomy inside his head around as much as was possible. Then when I'd made the teeth, then we did the plaster cast of the head with the teeth in, okay? And from that, I then had to sculpt the whole thing.
Well, John, how did you learn to speak? Or did you all think of it yourself, or did you have somebody to help you?
No, I did think of that myself. There's some parts that dawn on you very quickly, the way in which you want to play it. And fortunately, the voice that I'd always imagined he was going to speak with was not impeded by the teeth or the makeup. The problems with the makeup, of course, were the problems that it could break up quite easily, because a lot of it goes to nothing, particularly inside of the lips and things like that. So you had to exercise an enormous amount of personal economy. That's the only way I can put it, really, during the day, for it to last. But the preparation of the role, I don't know. I don't remember that being any great difficulty. The difficulty was merely being able to last the days. And on the first day of the makeup, I must say, I rang up my wife at the time my late wife, and she said, and I said to her, I said, well, I think they've finally found a way of making me not enjoy films. But strangely enough, you get used to that. You adapt to it quite reasonably. And also with film, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know what you'd have to do if you did that for a television series, which you had a 7-year contract or something. I think then suicide might be in order. Should be right. Yes, that bit's there. Yeah. Tucking the ear is important as well, I might say, because you've got this on now from...
Well, this one went up here, didn't it?
This went on
the exact sequence we did.
Yeah, that's one of the tricky bits, actually, because it's also got the lip on it, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
It tucks right underneath.
That's right, the lip works in something like that. That fits on. And then this one, oops, fits up there. Mm-hmm. So if I can hold it down, you
I'll
get
keep my fingers out of the way, because I know...
rough idea of what it actually looked like.
All those ends have to be brushed away to nothing.
More to the profile. If you look more to your left, you'll get that's it. That's good.
You ready for tea? Please go in, John. Make yourself comfortable.
I went in at 4:30. We used to sit around and have coffee for that bit.
In the morning?
In the morning, yeah. Start makeup at 5 o'clock. We finish the makeup at 12 noon. Then we'd shoot from 12 noon with the running buffet for everybody else, not for me, because I couldn't eat. The last thing I had was at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is 2 raw eggs and some orange juice mixed up together through a straw. But so we'd shoot from 12 till 10:30 at night, and then it would take another hour and a half to get it off. And we did that every other day. And the day in between, we'd rehearse in civvies.
Come on. Meet our guest. Mr. Merrick, I'd like you to meet my wife, Anne. Anne, this is John Merrick.
I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Merrick.
What's the matter?
I just said I'm not used to be treated so well by a beautiful woman. Would you like a cup of tea, Mr. Merrick?
It's a good idea. You'd like to come and see the rest of the house? Come on, I'll show you.
Isn't it right that after this film, or actually because of this film, the Academy Award of Makeup was being
well, that's
invented?
perfectly true, yes, yes. Up to that time, there had been a campaign for an award for makeup by the Hollywood Local Union, that is, that dealt with some of the bigger makeup names in Los Angeles. And they had been campaigning for some considerable time, a number of years, 7 or 8 years, or perhaps more even, for an award for makeup, which in the early days perhaps wasn't always warranted. Sometimes, such as the Charles Laughton Hunchback of Notre Dame or something like that, certainly that warrants an award. But of course, the average feature film never really had that much in the way of makeup. However, the Elephant Man really did drive it home to the Academy that things should change, since they were giving awards for other departments that weren't always perhaps quite so important to the success of a film, such as sound or whatever.
It didn't earn you an Oscar.
No, because there were no Oscars for makeup.
No.
There was no such thing as an Academy Award for makeup at that time. However, the Academy decided that after The Elephant Man, they could hardly ignore the fact that there was no an award for makeup, because if things like that were going to crop up frequently, which they had in the past, there'd always been occasions, but there was no specific category. Mm-hmm. So after Elephant Man, there'd been a lot of heckling by the makeup union in Los Angeles. There had been a lot of political rows brewing up over this over, recent years. And the Academy finally got round to giving a special award for makeup, but of course I didn't get it, no, obviously. It was after the event. No, not at all, I don't care. No? It doesn't worry me much.
Well, it's sort of recognition, not only of the
yeah, that's true.
Of
yes,
the work you do.
Yes, so this is perfectly true. But then, I mean, if there wasn't an award, there wasn't an award. So I can hardly complain that I didn't get one. If there wasn't one, there wasn't one. And that's the end of the story. At that time, there wasn't one. They decided to make a special category after the event. In other words, it was too late. So they can hardly nominate you for after you've died. It's almost like getting a medal after you're dead. I mean, the film is, technically it's not included in the nominees, is it, for the following year?
Are there any plans of working together again in the future?
Well, nobody's offered us a job together currently, as far as I know. We're open to offers. Depends on what it is, though.
I'm very fond of Chris, but if I get a film and they say, "Oh, we've got Chris Tucker as the makeup man," I'm immediately suspicious.
Well, I guess when you...
I think if he was wise, he'd run a mile. Because it's the preparation as much as anything else. It's not... It's the matter of the fact you've got to come into the studio early. You have to get up earlier than anybody else. You have to come into the studio before anybody else. You have to sit down and go through things that nobody else has to go through every day. And no matter how much of an enthusiast for makeup, such as Laurence Olivier or anybody else for that matter, the novelty wears thin, and I think John realises that. I'm sure he does.
Well, I mean, as I think I said before, you don't very often get, very rarely in your life you're going to have something which you're going to have 7 hours of makeup as a standard thing. No, indeed, I'd love to work with Chris again if there was something which was, I don't know, some odd nose or something. I wouldn't mind that. That wouldn't be too bad.
That would be bearable. The point about all this, though, is that it is an accessory and it's supposed to be an aid to the actor. It's not there to be seen for its own sake. It's there purely
It has come
as
a
an aid
long
to
way
an
from the makeup people used to use, of course. This sort of makeup. That is.
Oh, yes. It's getting quite well developed now, you could say. It really is.